Alright, so this is a game called Sanctuary of Giving, and I actually wrote and composed and integrated it in a way that allows the musical integrity to be maintained while still being able to transition and be interactive like game audio should be. Here you can see that I broke it into segments so that there's a couple bars, and Wwise will basically loop the audio until there's a player interaction, they enter a new area, start the game, and you get a transition into the next segment of looping music. Sanctuary of Giving. So here, this is the same thing. The music is broken into segments in Wwise that can then transition to the gameplay music once they enter the island. Here you can see all of the other sound effects and music hierarchy, different ambiances, player locomotion, footsteps, which all of the different materials, there weren't that many in this game, but I integrated all of that using Wwise and different looping techniques in Wwise. So the player is then encouraged to get rid of all of their treasures, all of their worldly possessions, and enter the island. Once they do, that will transition into the next segment of music. There's a little transition loop. The reason that I did this with the music was because we have all of these recording sessions, we put in all of this work, and sometimes the music just gets faded out, but we lose the end of a melody, we lose a nice part of the composer's work, so this allows it to still finish a melody before transitioning. So this is a transition segment that goes into the gameplay. And here you can see some of those footsteps switching based off of the material that the player is on. Little candle flicker as well. Here is the script for the switch on the ground materials. You also get to really take in all of the different ambiances, and that's actually purposeful because I talked with the developers on not having music as soon as they entered the island. That way you can kind of explore a little bit, immerse yourself into this little world that we've created, and then once the player plants these flowers or fruit, they can then give them to different characters, animals, or even players, because it is multiplayer in the game, and that will add to what we call the generosity counter. So this generosity counter is an integer that I connected in Wwise to an RTPC, and as they continue to give, it will actually go up and trigger the next segment of music. And as you can see, I time skipped a little bit, but it also affects the ambiances, the daytime, and all of that is coded in script in the engine and connected to Wwise on my end of the implementation. And then here we have another segment of music that would loop, and based off of what the character does, or when they enter the final portion of the game, the cave, then it would also be able to maintain its melodic structure before transitioning into the next area. And here is some of the code that I inserted a couple AK events to post certain Wwise sound effects, music, things like that, working side by side with the game developers to integrate some of these audio cues. And sadly, the servers are shut down, but once the player or players finally finish their little flower crown, they would hit this bell, let everyone know that they're going to be entering the cave, and that would trigger the last segment of music in the game. And sometimes if you time it right, it transitions beautifully. Here's that last segment, also built up into multi-bars of music. And once the players enter this last location, they would step on these plates and you would get a cutscene to end the game. Or in this case, if you don't have anyone else on the server, you can give flowers to other animals and they would help you get to the last portion of the game. This was the only instance of the game where I had to use a very strict fade because it had to be timed with the ending cutscene. So I couldn't do the fancy segmented loop like I did with everything else in the game. But that wraps it up for this showcase, specifically focusing on music design and how music can still maintain its melodic structures and all of the composer's hard work while still being interactive with different areas of the game.